Good morning, Manchester United fans and all those haters of Manchester United. Today we look at the progress that Manchester United has made this season after the match that they played against Brighton, and also the match that they played against Sevilla. When we look at the Sevilla match, for instance, we see that indeed Ten Hag had bottled that match by first losing uh, in the first leg. Yes, it was a draw, but it was a loss because Manchester had lost that tie and had lost the qualification just in that game because every progress that they had made was eroded in that game. And we saw the power with which Sevilla could play, and we could not contain them in the second leg. Our players have exhibited mixed kind of performances. Sometimes when you don't expect them to win a match, they put up a show and they do win. Sometimes when you expect them to have a walkover over a certain team, again, they do not perform as per expectations, as we saw in the Sevilla game. You can imagine this is a team that had won against three La Liga sides, Real Betis, Real Sociedad, as well as Barcelona. Barcelona, they are the leaders in La Liga, but we passed through them like it was an easy thing, though it was difficult. Then we fought to Sevilla. So this is a kind of performances that this team is able to give you. For me, is this team ready? The Manchester United team, is it ready to challenge for major trophies? At the moment, no. Because when we look at Manchester United in totality, every other player among the first 11 that misses, then we have a huge gap. Be it Casemiro, be it Rashford, be it Bruno Fernandes, or the back four. Mainly, we are talking about the back two, that is Varane as well as Martinez. We see that when we lose any of these people, the drop is too huge that we can't contend when we are playing against high-pressing teams or high-organized teams. This is a dilemma which Manchester is facing, and we need, during the summer, we need to reinforce to ensure that we have people are able to come in case we have challenges on these numbers, like we have the challenges on the back line with Varane and Martinez out, or like we have the challenges with the front line where we are not able to score goals. As long as Rashford doesn't score, then we can score. So this is a challenge that we have, the dilemma that we have, or where we see Bruno Fernandes or Casemiro or even Ericsson coming out of the game and being replaced by either Fred or McTominay or even Sabater, we see that the drop-off is huge. So this team, in its current status, as far as I'm concerned, is not able to challenge for anything very serious. We had a chance to be in the finals for Europa. We blew it up. We have a chance to be in the FA Cup final. That is on the 3rd of June against Manchester City. Before I talk about that game, I want to talk about the Brighton game. When we look at the Brighton game that we played with a 4-3. Then we had the 2-1, or rather 4-3-3, with Marshall as the main striker. Like I said in the previous analysis, when we played against I think Sevilla, when we drew, I was talking about the development of Marshall's game. Marshall has developed, reinvented himself in terms of ball holding, link-up play. Is able to contribute to the link-up of play of Manchester United when he plays. But we also know that Marshall has not really come reach his peak this season because he has been absent most of the season and therefore he lacks much sharpness. That is why he's not able to score even when a clear chance is presented to him, as we saw in the Brighton game. Rashford, of course, he has been disturbed by the injury that he had, so he's still trying to find his way in this later half of the season. We hope that he can get back to scoring because at the moment he's also struggling. We look at Anthony, the Brazilian, De Santos. Anthony, the selfishness has continued, like we saw in the Brighton game, where his friends had better chances. They were positioned better, but instead of passing the ball to them, he tries to score. Both the Bruno and Anton are the reasons that we failed to score against Brighton, because Anton and Bruno had so many tries on the goal, but they couldn't score. Even when they saw that the other strikers, like Rashford, were in a better position, they couldn't still score. So we are still having challenges with the front line. Our main man of goal is Rashford, and as much as possible, we need to get him into the game. We need to pass the ball to him. We need to help him to come back to his form so that he helps us in this later part of the season. So the front three were a bit disappointing. For Rashford, yes, because he's just coming back. For Marshall and Anton, is for fellow namesake Anton, the selfishness with which they play the game is damning, because it is the reason that we couldn't score in the Brighton game. Yeah, when you look at the way Brighton was set up, they were playing more like what Sevilla did. It was a high pressing match, but they were also very organized. You see that their defensive lines were so organized. Their strikers were also able to drop in the midfield to move our defenders, to pull them out of position and get spaces for the other attackers like Welbeck. These are very highly and tactical team, the Brighton team that we played. The fact that they could not score is I don't know what I can say. Because as we see, they had better ball possession because that's 69% against us. And they were aggressive, they were high pressing, they were organized. The fact that they couldn't score because they stood a better chance of scoring as opposed to Manchester United. Us, in the first 15 minutes, we had better chances than Brighton, yes. Unfortunately, they fell to Bruno Fernandes as well as Anton De Santos, the Brazilian. These wasted the opportunities. What is the takeoff from this? Of course, we see the midfield of Bruno, Christian Eriksen, and Casemiro was almost overrun in the Brighton match. They were always pulled out of positions, and the pockets were created where the Brighton players could pass through and create problems for us. So we need to do better next time in terms of organization when we are facing another team like Brighton that is high pressing. We didn't do well with Brighton. The only positive thing that we can take off from this game is that at least the defense kept Brighton at bay. We see the organization of Lindelof and Alok was much better than Lindelof and Maguire. They played well. Otherwise, without this defensive partnership that tried as much as possible to remain organized and ensure that they keep Brighton at bay, without this, we could have lost that game even by 2-0, 3-0 because of the way Brighton was playing. Also, we give credit to De Gea. Of course, we see that he's one of those people that cost us the game with Sevilla in Madrid, in Spain. Sorry, he cost us one of the goals. But we see that in this game with Brighton, he tried as much as possible to do his best. So the organization of the defense, which was made up of Wan-Bissaka, Alok, Lindelof, and Dalot was good to a point. And I have to say something before I leave. I'm amazed at the kind of player that Wan-Bissaka has become. his dribbling, his ball control, his defensive is second to none. I think for me, he, in our Manchester team, he was actually the best player on the field on that night. He played better than any other player. So I'm very happy and excited at the development that I've seen from Wan-Bissaka. Just as I said about Anton Marshall, but Anton Marshall, the problem is, can we keep him fit? No, we cannot. We can hope, but we hope in vain, because we have seen many times that this player, we have tried as much as possible to wait for him, but still it disappoints because he is never fit. Whenever we need him, he's not available. But the development of Wan-Bissaka under Eric Ten Hag is amazing. And I think he was the best player against Brighton. And I hope that he can continue to develop, and I hope that he can take that place instead of Dalot. Because for me, Dalot is a bit inconsistent. Dalot tried as much as possible to get that position from Wan-Bissaka when he began to play in the early parts of the season. But we see that the two are different. Wan-Bissaka is just amazing. And we have seen that he has developed both his passing, his crossing, his attacking, and then on his defending, the V1 kind of situation is second to none. There's none that can beat him. And we see that most of the times, the Brighton players were kept at bay because of the participation of Wan-Bissaka. So we are grateful to the development that he has made, and we hope that he can seal that place, because we know that when we have Wan-Bissaka there, you have Varane and Martinez, then we have Luke Shaw there. Though Luke Shaw is a bit not consistent. At his best, of course, he's one of the best players that you can have. I hope that he can develop some consistency. I don't know if it's an injury, but he's not as good as when he was playing before, just that time before Ericsson actually, or before they went to the World Cup, or before Ericsson got injured. They were so formidable on that left flank in terms of how they were relating with Rashford. It was great, and we saw that most of the goals came from there. Now, I don't know what has happened to him. When he plays on the left side there, he's not as good as he has been, or as we expect him. But on the central defense there, as a centre back, he has done absolutely well. If I were Eric Ten Hag, I would have actually made that place to be Luke Shaw's. So that maybe Martinez can be thrown in the midfield with the Casemiro, and then we can have another number 10 there, where we have either Ericsson or we have Bruno. Because if we have this kind of arrangement, even if we have Casemiro out, we know that we have Martinez. We can bring in another person there. We can bring in Bruno. We can bring in Ericsson on that position, and we'll still not suffer as much as we have suffered in the absence of Casemiro, or in the absence of Bruno, or whenever in the absence of Ericsson, because we have suffered greatly. We saw the McDonald playing, and he disappointed every time he played. We saw the combative Fred playing, but you must understand that Fred is not at the level that we desire at Manchester United. So basically, the back line played well, but we saw when Malacia was brought in, we saw that it was not the same. Malacia was brought in, and Dalot, both Malacia and Dalot really struggled on the wings there in terms of defending. Malacia, I don't know what has happened with him, whether he's suffering from confidence, because when he took the place from Luke Shaw, he was very aggressive, combative. This is a player that we wanted to see play every day, every match. But at the moment, he is not even able to win anything on that left flank when he's playing. Any player can dribble past him, and he's a weak link on that side of the field. When he came in, we saw that problem again. When we call in the middle, we saw Freddy come in, we saw Sabitwa come in, we saw also Sancho come in. I must say I was impressed with Sancho. Besides Wan-Bissaka, I think Sancho was the best player on the pitch when he came in. When he came in, he had improved a lot in terms of the way we attacked, the way the link-up play was done. He combined, of course, with Fred. So both the substitution of Fred and Sancho helped a lot because Manchester had improved. Because before that, we were overrun by Brighton. But after that, it improved and we were almost 50-50 with Brighton. So basically, I must say that Sancho, the substitution of Sancho and Fred had improved things a lot. What are the improvements that I want to see in the next match? I need to see that Anton De Santos becomes less selfish, is able to pass the ball, or it's better if we are playing against a team like Brighton and we are looking to score. It's better we play Rashford, Sancho. We can't play of this kind of combination because Anton would always want to get credit to himself and would always want to shoot even when he knows that the angle isn't really good. So I saw some positives from the game, but I also saw a lot of negatives. The positives that I saw, as I've said, is the way Sancho contributed, the way Wan-Bissaka played. These are the two major improvements that I saw, or rather encouraging positives that I saw. Of course, also Fred played well, but as usual, Fred is not consistent with performance. He's always in and out, in and out, in and out, and that's not the kind of performance that you expect, or the player that you expect from Manchester United. So in the next game, I hope that we shall see a lot of improvements. I hope that we shall see the midfield again getting linked up properly or hooked up properly so that they can be solid, they can be fluent. Of course, they haven't played together for a long time, and therefore these problems we have, more like the same ones that we had immediately we start to play Casemiro, Eriksen, and Bruno Fernandes. So, like I said, for me, if you look at Eriksen is not a defensive person. And therefore, the number 8 that he plays becomes like a weak link for us. Yes, in terms of forward passing, he's the best from that position. But in terms of defensive, he's not as good. So I want to see going forward where Eriksen would play more of number 10 and Bruno Fernandes coming to number 8. So that is with Casemiro. I don't think that if we play like this, that there's any team that can scare our midfield. It will be the best midfield that you can play against. The most scary, most offensive, and most dangerous defensive midfield that you can play against. So I want to see Erik ten Hag make this substitution, more like what he did with Sabitu, Bruno, and Casemiro, where Sabitu was playing number 10 and Bruno went to number 8. Bruno is more competitive, is more aggressive, his engine is bigger than that of Eriksen in terms of the way he runs, the way he marks. So in terms of defensive elements, he's much better than Eriksen. So I would rather we use Eriksen on number 10. If they don't want to use him on number 10, he can take the position of Anton there, that side, because Anton is not ready. Maybe next season he shall be ready, but he's not ready, he's struggling. I want to hear what you say. Kindly share this video with the other friends, other groups, and share your comments so that I know what you can say. Again, we are looking at the performances of Manchester United against Sevilla, against Brighton. We saw that Brighton withdrew. It was goalless at full time, extra time. We played under 20 minutes. 120 minutes, and it was goalless. We had to win against Brighton on penalties. It was 6-7 against Brighton. So we won by penalty shootout, but it's not one of the convincing wins that you can talk about. What do we expect from Manchester United versus Man City? Join us as we discuss that next Sunday. Bye-bye. This has been your host, Brian Sampa. Join me next time as we discuss more Manchester United football. and kindly share your comments, share what you have to say about our team, the improvements we need to make, the mistakes we made, and the prediction going forward, how we need to play, what kind of style do we need to play, what kind of players must we use. This is Brian Sampa, bye-bye, and the present view.